Good morning, children. Today we'll study a poem titled The Ant and the Cricket. It is adapted from Aesop's fable. Aesop's fables are just like Indian Panchatantra. If you've heard of Panchatantra stories, they're stories with a moral at the end of the stories. So, Aesop's fables is also just like that. All the stories have a moral lesson or a teaching to give us, and this is one of the this is a poem which has been adapted from those stories. So it is titled Ant and the Cricket, and it is about an ant. As you can see, she is the ant and it is the cricket. So crickets are basically insects. It's also a game, as you know, and the name of the game is also derived from this animal, this insect. And if you've heard of this sound, you must have heard of this sound at night. So this is the sound of a cricket singing. Yes. So this is the sound of a cricket singing, and this is a story about these two ants and about ant and a cricket. So let's start. A silly young cricket, accustomed to sing through the warm sunny months of gay summer and spring. So there was a cricket, and it liked singing, and it was accustomed, meaning it was used to singing, and it was a habit, and he used to just sing in the months of summer and spring. In the gray months, in the happy months of summer and spring, it just used to sing. Began to complain when he found that at home his cupboard was empty and winter was come. So, what happened when this cricket was used to singing? He began to complain. When did he begin to complain? When he was at home and his cupboard is your almirah, was empty and winter had come. So in winter, what happens is food is usually very hard to come by. All the insects are underground, right? All the animals go underground because of the cold. So food is very hard to come by, and all the flowers which were blooming earlier are now not blooming anymore. All the trees are also cold and the leaves have shed, so it's very difficult for insects to survive. So he doesn't have any food to live on, so he is complaining. Not a crumb to be found on the snow covered ground, not a flower could he see, not a leaf on a tree. So as you can see, it's so deserted. There is no crumb, crumb meaning a piece of food. Even a bread crumb is a small piece of food that you eat. On the snow covered ground, the ground is snow covered. Not a flower could he see. So because these insects survive on fruit nectar, they eat insects inside the fruit, sorry, the flower. He could not see any flower, and not a leaf on a tree. So he couldn't even see leaves on trees because they were covered with snow. Oh, what will become, say, the cricket of me? So he's just now just asking, oh, what will happen to me? This simple meaning is, what will happen to me if I don't have any food? What will become of me? So he's now thinking, what will happen to me if I don't have any food? At last, by starvation and famine made bold, all dripping with wet and trembling with cold, away he set off to a miserly ant. So now, there are some words which you need to understand. At last, by starvation. What is starvation? When you don't have anything to eat and you don't have any other means to get food. So that means you are starving, and that is starvation. So he was starving, he did not have any food and he was hungry, and famine made bold. So famine is basically when there is no food around. You don't even have, like, even if you want to have food, you will not be able to have food because there is no food around you. There is lack of food is when is a famine. So in India also there is a great Bengal famine where around to 3 to 5 lakh people died because they did not have anything to eat. That is a famine. At last, by starvation and famine made bold. So because he was so hungry, so he got that courage to go to someone to ask food, because earlier he did not want to ask food to anyone, but now he was bold. He got that courage because he was so hungry. all dripping with wet and trembling with cold. So he was, because there was so much cold, and when you walk in snow you get cold and you get wet because the snow melts because with the heat of your body a little bit, and then it becomes water. So you, when you walk in snow, you tend to get wet. She was dripping with wet and trembling with cold. Away he set off to a miserly ant. Who is a miser? Miserly, it's an adverb. Miser, who is a miser? Miser is a person who, जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं कंजूस. It's very कंजूस. The ant is कंजूस. So we'll see if the ant is कंजूस. So now we see the meeting. He is meeting the ant. The ant has very nicely made a ant hill. This is called an ant hill. So we must have seen on the ground, these ants make small hills with mud that they dig out from the ground, and you know, small crumbles of round mud that they make these ant hills, and inside they securely live while there is winter, and they take enough food and they store it. So the ant comes out and he goes there with a bowl. He's like, okay, he's asking for some food. To keep him alive, he would grant him shelter from rain and a mouthful of grain. He wished only to borrow, he'd repay it tomorrow. So why did he go to that ant? To see if, to keep him alive, he would grant him shelter from rain. So obviously he did not have any shelter as well. He did not make any house, he did not store any food. So he went to ask for two things. The first thing that he asked was for food, and the second thing was for shelter. To keep him alive, he would grant him shelter from rain, number one thing, and a mouthful of grain. So a mouthful of grain is some food. That is the number two thing that he wanted to ask. He wished only to borrow. So he was not saying, you just give it to me, I will return it. He wanted to just borrow. He did not want to take it permanently. He wanted to borrow. So what is the difference between borrowing and taking it permanently? If you are asking for something, okay, give me a pen. If you are saying give me a pen, that means you are asking for that pen permanently. You are not intending to return that pen. But if you say, can I borrow your pen? Borrow means I intend to return it after my use is done. After I use it, I have no use of that pen anymore, I will return it back to you. And he says he'd repay it tomorrow. Tomorrow meaning in the coming days, not just tomorrow, because snow doesn't go away in one day. So he wished only to borrow. So in his head he's thinking, I can borrow, I'll borrow. I'm not going to ask permanently for something. I'm just going to borrow and I will repay it tomorrow. It's like he said it. Okay, aunt, can you give me some shelter? And can you give shelter? And can you give me some food? And I am only borrowing it. I'm not asking you for it. Don't give me a favor. I'm only trying to borrow it. I will repay you whatever I take from you. If not, he must die of starvation and sorrow. But if the aunt denies this, he will die of starvation and he will die of sorrow. Sorrow means sadness. So he will die of sadness and sorrow. Says the aunt to the cricket. Now the aunt has replied back. I am your servant and friend, but if we aunts never borrow, we aunts never lend. Now the aunt has replied. What has she replied? I am your servant and friend, but we aunts never borrow, we aunts never lend. So the aunt is saying very clearly that okay, you may think that we are your servants, but we are aunts and we don't borrow from anyone and we don't even lend. Lend means to give for a temporary amount of time, right? So if you're borrowing for someone, somebody is lending you, that is why you are able to borrow it from them. So the aunt say this. Says the aunt to the cricket, I am your servant and friend, but we aunts never borrow, we aunts never lend. So very clearly the aunts have denied him whatever he's asking for. He's asking for shelter and food. But tell me, dear cricket, did you lay nothing by when the weather was warm? So now the aunt is asking a question. Didn't you store anything? Store any food Didn't you store any food? These ants are asking. Okay, this is the question that these ants are asking. Why didn't you store any food when the weather was warm? Quote the cricket, not I. Now the cricket has replied, no, I did not. Not I means no, I didn't save anything when the weather was warm. He's giving justification now. Like, my heart was so light that I sang day and night. For all nature looked gay. You sang. So now this is the reply of the cricket, that why didn't I store food? Because my heart was so light that I sang day and night, for all nature looked gay. Because the weather was so nice and I wanted to just sing, my heart was so light, so I just sang day and night, did not bother storing any food. So now the ant is asking, you sang, sir? You say? तुमने बहुत गाना गाया, you say? Like, okay, go then, says the ant, and dance the winter away. So now the ant is saying, okay, fine. Since you found the weather to be so nice and you were singing in the summer, so now in the winter you go and dance. Because you were spending your time singing in the summer, now you can go and dance in the winter and your winter will go away. Thus ending, he hastily lifted the wicket. What is a wicket? This is a wicket. The legs of the cricket are called wickets. Small, thin legs are called wickets. Thus ending, he hastily lifted his wicket and out of the door turned the poor little cricket. Folks call this a fable. I'll warrant it true. So now the folks call it a fable. Fable is basically a story, as I've told you. It's a story. It's not definitely something real. Okay, whatever is a story is not real. I'll warrant it true. Now he's saying, but I say it is the truth. It is not just a story. Some crickets have 4 legs and some have 2. So these crickets have 4 legs, as you see. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Right? 1 leg, 2 leg, 3 leg, 4 leg. So these are crickets with 4 legs. But some crickets have 2 legs as well. Who are those crickets? You and me. We are also like this cricket. When the weather is nice, we will not store food. And when the weather is harsh, we go to others for help. So this is the basic teaching, that when everything is nice, when there is time for us to do things, we will not do them. We will relax nicely. So अब lockdown है, so we are sitting, सुबह 9 बजे उठेंगे, खाना खाएंगे, टीवी देखेंगे, कुछ नहीं करेंगे, सो जाएंगे, खाना खाएंगे, खेलेंगे, मोबाइल खेलेंगे, सो जाएंगे, खाना खाएंगे, फिर सो जाएंगे, खाना खाएंगे. This is what we are doing. We are not doing anything that will help us in the future. So this is what the ants are so responsible. Ants always think of the future. So whatever you are doing today, how will it affect you in the future? This is what humans need to learn from this, that we should take responsibility of our present so that our future is secured. This is what the poem is all about. Okay, now he went back. Folks call this a fable. I'll warrant it true. Some crickets have 4 legs and some have 2. That is it. And I listened to the audio that I had given you 2-3 times while reading the poem, and then you can watch this video to understand. If there is something you did not understand, you can let me know and I will make it clear.